Hello, children. How are you today? I'm Dr. Patty Rose, and I'm so excited because I'm going to be reading a book to you. I'm especially excited about this book because I wrote it. And not only did I write the book, but I also drew the pictures. And you know what? I did it just for you. So let's talk about this first book. There's actually 3 that I'm going to be reading to you. The first one is called Himalia's Dream Venture. So the little girl that you see on the cover is Himalia. And next to her, you see a flamingo. And next to her on the other side, you see a panther. And it says written and illustrated by Patty Rose. And that's me. So let me begin by telling you why I wrote this. The purpose of this book is this. It is for all the children who have questions and dare to dream. So do you ever have questions? Do you ever have dreams about things that you want to do or see? Well, that's what happens with Himalia. So let's find out what some of her questions are and her dreams. I always get very excited when I have the chance to run errands with my mother. Sometimes we go to the bank, the grocery store, or to the fabric store. My mother loves to get fabric to make me beautiful clothes for school. During our trips, I ask many questions about every detail, and sometimes we stop for ice cream. Okay, let's go, Himalia. Where are we going? To open your first bank account so you have some place to put your allowance money. We also have other things to do, my mother says. What's a bank account? I ask. I have some place to put my money. I have my piggy bank. We'll talk about it later. Are you ready to go? Yes, I'm ready. So Himalia and her mother go to the bank. And there you see her mother and Himalia. And you see Mr. Bottlenose. Mr. Bottlenose is the man that works at the bank. Thank you, Mr. Bottlenose, for opening Himalia's first bank account. She has money saved in her piggy bank from her allowance. We will bring it back so she can put money from it into her new bank account. Mom, why can't I leave my money in my piggy bank? Himalia asks. I'll explain later, Himalia. For now, say goodbye to Mr. Bottlenose. Goodbye, Mr. Bottlenose. Goodbye, Himalia, and keep saving. We left quickly to complete the next errand on my mother's list. After the bank, I went with her to pay rent. What is rent? I asked her. I'll explain later. It is due now, so let's walk quickly. Okay, Mommy. As we walked to Mr. Panther's office, we saw Mrs. Flamingo walking toward us. I love seeing Mrs. Flamingo as she always wears bright clothing. So here we see Himalia and her mom walking down the street, and they see Mrs. Flamingo. Her clothes are very bright. Look at her bright earrings and her bright dress. And she has a very big smile, so they're happy to see her. Mrs. Flamingo thinks she knows everything, my mother whispered to me. Hello, Mrs. Flamingo, my mom says. Hello, my friend, and hello to you, Himalia. You both look lovely. We both thanked her and then laughed because we spoke at the same time. Did you both know that it is good luck when 2 people speak at the same time? Mrs. Flamingo asked. Well, that is wonderful, Mrs. Flamingo. We're going to need a lot of luck to make it to Mr. Panther's office on time. It was nice to see you. Nice seeing the both of you too. Have a wonderful day, Mrs. Flamingo responded. You too. Have a great day. Say goodbye to Mrs. Flamingo, Himalia, my mom says. Goodbye, Mrs. Flamingo. Goodbye, little Himalia, she responded. My mother pulled my hand gently and we walked quickly. I was almost running to keep up with my mother's fast pace. Finally, we arrived at Mr. Panther's office. My mother said hello to him and gave him a piece of paper, and he thanked her. "Mommy, is that paper rent?" Himalia asked. "It's a check," she whispered. "Is rent money?" Himalia asked. "Yes, it is, Himalia." "Oh." I was wondering how money, rent, and a check are the same thing, but I didn't want to ask another question. Mr. Panther reached down to shake my hand. He looked at the check that had been handed to him and thanked my mother. She thanked him, said goodbye, and I did the same. "Himalia, I think it's time to get ice cream. Would you like that?" my mom asked. "Oh, yes, ice cream will be great." Going to get ice cream was my favorite part of running errands with my mother. So here you can see the ice cream shop. After a long day of errands, I was happy to be cozy in my bed. My parents came into my room to say goodnight, knowing that it would be the time that I would ask many questions about whatever was on my mind, as I always did after a day of errands. "Himalia, no more questions about money, banks, and rent today. We had such a busy day, right?" my mother asked. "Yes, Mommy, but I have more questions now, and you said you would answer later." "Isn't it later now?" "You know, Himalia," my father chimed in, "if you whisper your questions to yourself before you go to sleep, you may be surprised by how you get your answers." They each kissed me goodnight. "Go wherever your dreams may take you. Sweet dreams," my mother said softly. "Thank you, Mommy and Daddy. I will do that," I replied as my parents left the room. I closed my eyes, asking the question in my mind after I drifted into my dreams. So there Himalia is in her bed with her mommy and daddy by her side, her daddy with a big smile and her mommy with a big smile before she goes off to sleep. Suddenly, I realized I was in warm, crystal clear blue water with a friendly dolphin. "Hello, I'm Mr. Bottlenose." "Mr. Bottlenose? Wow, it's nice to see you. Do you mind if I ask you some questions?" "Of course not, little Himalia. Go ahead and ask, and I will try to answer your questions." I looked at my piggy bank and thought about which questions I wanted to ask. Mr. Bottlenose swam close to me and leaned forward to listen. So there you can see Mr. Bottlenose in the water with Himalia. My mom took me to open a new bank account. Now I have to put my money there. Then later I can use a check or a debit card to pay for things. Do you know what checks and debit cards are? Mr. Bottlenose is leaning in. He's listened to her questions and he's ready to answer. There's a check and there's a debit card. "Oh, that's an easy question, Himalia. A check is paper created by the bank that is used to pay for things. You can also pay for things with a debit card, which is also from the bank." But I think I like my piggy bank, Mr. Bottlenose. I like holding and seeing my money. Yes, Himalia, many people like them. But Mr. Panther is wiser. He can answer more of your questions. Thank you for your help, Mr. Bottlenose. Now we'll find Mr. Panther. As I thanked Mr. Bottlenose and looked around, suddenly I found myself standing in soft, tall grass in front of Mr. Panther. So here you can see Himalia now. She's standing in the grass and she's standing in front of Mr. Panther. Mr. Panther, this is so surprising. I'm glad to see you. Mr. Bottlenose said you are wise. May I ask you a question? Hello, Himalia. I'm glad to see you too. What is your question? Well, my mother and father pay something called rent. What is rent? Rent is the money that your parents pay to the owner of your home. They have a lease, which has the rules that they and the owner must follow while living there. Oh, I usually don't like too many rules. I have another question. Himalia, you should speak to Mrs. Flamingo if you have more questions. Does she know a lot, Mr. Panther? Yes, she knows everything. You will find her nearby. I looked at him strangely. Thank you and goodbye, Mr. Panther. I'm going to see Mrs. Flamingo right now. Good day, Himalia. So she left Mr. Panther and she found Mrs. Flamingo. Hello, Mrs. Flamingo. I just spoke to Mr. Panther, who says you know everything. Do you? I don't know everything. But what do you need, child? Maybe I can help. I have a question, Mrs. Flamingo. Why do you think my mom and dad rent their house and do not own it? Himalia, such a big question from a little girl. It takes a lot of money to buy a house. What do you mean, Mrs. Flamingo? I will teach you by example, Himalia. If a house costs $10, you need $2, which is called the down payment, to give to the bank before they will lend the rest of the money, which is $8. Lending is when the bank gives you the $8 to buy the house, which is called a mortgage, and you have to pay them back with interest. Oh, what is interest? Interest is the extra money that you pay to the bank for letting you use the money. Houses don't cost $10, but usually hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So maybe my parents don't have so much money to do this. I don't know, Himalia. People save money and then they buy a house. Well, that's great, Mrs. Flamingo. My parents love to save. I think they are saving. I think so too, Himalia. Thank you, Mrs. Flamingo. You do know everything. Goodbye. Goodbye, Himalia. I woke up a little confused, but very excited because my parents told me to hurry up and get dressed and to get ready for a big surprise. I wondered what it could be. Maybe it's a puppy, since I asked to have one so many times. Or maybe we're going to get ice cream again. That always makes me happy. Waiting for her parents to come and get her for the big surprise. I got into the car and sat in the back seat. My parents were talking to each other softly. Himalia, did you have a good night's sleep? Oh, yes, Mommy. It was wonderful. I saw Mr. Bottlenose, Mr. Panther, and Mrs. Flamingo. They are so nice. Do you know that Mrs. Flamingo does know everything? They all look so different in my dream. Really? So where did you see them, Himalia? My father asked. Oh, Daddy, it was great. I saw Mr. Bottlenose in the water and Mr. Panther and Mrs. Flamingo in the grass. They answered all of my questions. Okay, that's nice, Himalia. Well, we are here, my father stated. You can get out of the car now. This is our new home. Mommy and Daddy, this is really ours? Yes, it's our new home, my father replied. So Himalia got out of the car, and there she saw their new home. So Mommy and Daddy, you did save, and you did have the down payment to get a mortgage. I'm sad about the interest, but at least you don't have to pay rent anymore. How do you know all of this, Himalia? Oh, Daddy, Mr. Bottlenose, Mr. Panther, and Mrs. Flamingo told me in my dream. They answered all of my questions. I love our new house. I didn't understand why, but my parents looked at each other again and were very quiet. Mommy and Daddy, is there a backyard? If so, can we go there? Yes, let's go there now. You can play there whenever you want, my mother replied. Oh, great, Mommy. I grabbed both of their hands and we headed to the backyard. Look, Mommy and Daddy, there's a butterfly by the fence. It's so beautiful. I was thinking now that we have a new house, can we get a dog? We'll see, Himalia. We all laughed because they both spoke at the same time. So there you see Himalia in her new backyard with her mommy and daddy. And there's a tree and there's the butterfly on the fence. So Himalia is very happy. And that is the end. And the next story is called Himalia Gets a Dog. I hope you enjoyed meeting Himalia. Until next time, bye-bye.